Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Saturday, May 27th, 2017. My name is Rich, and joining me again this week to cover Team Ninja Warrior is Bijan. How you making out?
I'm feeling much better now that this episode's done. I was so nervous about this episode. Oh boy, that Labreck Club was making me nervous. But we'll get back to it. But I feel like for the format, like any of the naysayers really have a huge point to make with this episode. Oh boy.
Oh my God, there was so much going on in this episode. What a great episode, though. Like, it was so back and forth. There's some amazing teams, some great runs, some real close ones. Like, this was everything we wanted. The finale was a little back and forth, but I can't wait to talk about all of it. And in addition to that, this episode of Team Ninja Warrior, we're going to be covering the American Ninja Warrior Experience, which was just announced, which is kind of cool and came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I did not see that coming, but I'm so happy that it's here. But I feel like a lot of listeners probably don't know what's going on with this. Why don't you give a little rundown of it?
Yeah, so the American Ninja Warrior Experience is going to be a tour, and they're going to be going around the country. They're going to have a course set up so people can try it. So they're going to you'll be able to try out an American Ninja Warrior course for yourself. They're going to have a pro course and an amateur course, and they'll have lots of stuff for kids to try. I'm guessing a lot of this is sounding very familiar to people right now. Like, what do you think, Bijan? Does this sound like something we may have mentioned before?
Quite familiar. I'm sure a lot of people are giving the side eye at this, but I don't know. I'm actually optimistic about it. But how do you feel about this, man?
I was a little back and forth on it, right, to be honest. So at first, I was like, my first thought was, oh man, the Wolfpack Ninja Tour is getting the shaft here. Like, I felt really bad for no. I almost emailed him. I started typing it up in email. I was like, you know what, I'll hold off for now. But the thing is, I clued in that this isn't something they can throw together last second, right? This is NBC, this is ATS. These are big companies that plan this stuff out well in advance. They've got all these cities already announced. They've already announced where they're having a lot of these at. And just for everybody's reference, that is Atlanta, Houston, Denver, Los Angeles, Indianapolis, Boston, Charlotte, and New Jersey. Which New Jersey's not a city, but whatever. That's the only, they actually use a state for that one. I'm guessing it's next to NYC. But the thing is that they don't decide this on a whim. They unfortunately, it just kind of coincides with the beginning of the Wolfpack Ninja Tour. And I'm hoping they can coexist, right? I mean, we've got how many different baseball leagues and football leagues out there. I'm hoping that they can coexist. But if I hear anything back from the Wolfpack, and I probably will be reaching out to them here shortly, I'll let you know. But it's interesting because they definitely announced Boston, which is great for me because that is actually a drivable distance for me, and I'll probably get down to that. And yeah, it sounds really cool. It sounds like everything we want in a tour. It's really good for the sport. It really doesn't have a downside, except for the fact that it may interfere with the Wolfpack Tour.
The thing is that it reminds me a lot of, like, Spartan Race is so huge when it comes to obstacle course racing. But then you have Tough Mudder and Rugged Maniac and, like, all these other foundations of OCRs. And they all can coexist. I mean, just in Southern California, we have Spartan Race this fall, and then a week later is Tough Mudder. And you don't see them hurting for money or anything. I think both of these tours can coexist at the same time. And I really like the fact that the ANW experience is hitting all these different parts of the country, where right now, at least, the Wolfpack Ninja Tour is relegated to a small facet, and they're slowly going to spread out when they get bigger and bigger, which, you know, works for them because they aren't working with the same budget that ANW is, obviously. I think both tours can work just perfectly fine, and the other thing that we need to remember is, just like Tough Mudder and Spartan and all those other things, we're dealing with athletes here. And the thing is that it's not like some small niche thing, or it's not some small niche industry. I mean, these are athletes that are willing to drive very far distances to do what they want to do and with their passions. So if Wolfpack Ninja is having something in the East Coast at the same time where A&W Experience is having something on the West Coast, both can coexist just fine. There's going to be tons of athletes going to both. I really don't see them knocking each other out too far. And if anything, it's going to elevate both tours because there's going to be much more talk about both tours with this. So, yeah, steel sharpening steel or whatever the phrase is, man.
Yeah, it definitely could do that, and I hope that's exactly what we see. Now, I was speaking with Jason Huey. He's the lead designer. He's actually on our podcast last year, I believe it was. I was thinking of just, kind of hitting the points myself, but let me quote him directly here. He said I was able to do that. So let me give the 4 points he wanted to make sure that we expressed. One is that this has been in the works for 2+ years. And they're definitely trying to incorporate the core values of the community. Second was that this was made to create new opportunities for the ninjas, to establish it as a professional sport and generate new opportunities for ninja athletes, which I think is huge. I think next to getting kids healthy, the second big goal for the Wolfpack Tour was to provide opportunities for the ninja athletes to make this into more of a legitimate sport and promote that competition. So it's great. His third point was that they wanted to bring American Ninja Warrior to the masses and engage everyday people and their families. Again, something we were all on board for, and something that we actually want to participate in ourselves. And the last point, and I think this is important, is that they have a lot of respect for the Wolfpack and everything they're doing. They're not trying to torpedo. I don't know what the best term is. They're not trying to hurt the Wolfpack. It's just an unfortunate situation. And I think
I don't even think it's unfortunate, I just think it might be a reaction going on online, but I think it'll be fine.
Let's keep it positive. Let's hope that everything can coexist, and we'll do everything we can to support the Wolfpack and the ANW Experience, because at the end of the day, ninja is ninja, and we're all one big community helping each other, just like ninjas do.
Just like UNAA and National Ninja League. But before we go, one thing that I want to hit that I'm so excited about this is that this course looks legit, guys. If you guys go to their website, which is anwexperience.com, I mean, they have some really high up plans. They have 4 courses. The first one's the adult open course, where it's got 3 different sections of rising difficulty. And it has all, your guys' favorite obstacles.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think we're going to get into a lot more detail later in the year, I guess. So it's looking to start in the fall. We may even have Jason or somebody else from the team come on the podcast with us to kind of explain what the goals are and how it's going to work, in addition to everything else going on. So I need to make clear right off the bat, you're probably listening to this, I can guarantee you're listening to this after Celebrity Ninja Warrior has aired. We are going to have a second episode to cover that. So in this episode, we are just going to be doing the A&W Experience and Team Ninja Warrior. So let's get into Team Ninja Warrior, because there's so much to talk about.
Woo!
So are you happy? Yes. By the skin of their teeth.
I will take it. I will take it all day, man. Whew.
It was close.
Talk about, the curse almost came back. The one team we just, didn't think of, we just relocated to the back burner. Almost did it. Oh boy. How
we ended the last episode, I'm pretty sure, was saying that, you know what, I think you said, at the end of the day, the Baller's going to win because they're the ones we're overlooking. And they almost did. They say it came so close.
In this whole episode, I was so terrified of the Breakfast Club. I was like, oh, there's nobody going to beat them. I was like, in the relay, the Real Life Beasts still have a really good shot because I didn't see... even thinking about it though, Noel Reyes is so upper body strong, but I just don't know how he would do against somebody like Drew Drechsel. But if they had that same deficit that happened in the relay, oh boy, I think we would have seen Labreck's Club make it all the way. But that's wishful thinking. We'll get into it because I have a lot to say about that whole hot mess of a situation.
This whole thing, oh my God. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So we've got 4 teams. We're way into this episode, and we're just finally getting to the teams here. We've got Real Life Beasts. That's Drew Drechsel, James McGrath, and Erica Cook. The Ballers, Lauren Ball, Paul Kasemir, and Mei Ling Wang. Stratis Faction, Ryan Stratis, Mike Bernardo, and Gray Sims. And Labreck's Club, Jesse Labreck, John Alexis Jr., and Noel Reyes. There are so many of my favorite ninjas in this episode, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, like, so much talent. I was so excited going in, but so worried also. Oh man, like this was definitely fun, just in terms of star power and everything. Just amazing.
So anyway, the first matchup was Beast versus Ballers. We had the real life Beast versus the Ballers. They matched up. Lauren ran first, so he ran against James McGrath, and then we had Erica versus Mei Ling, and Drew versus Paul to run it down. So we had like an old school Drew versus Paul Kasemir to finish it up. What did you think of Lauren's performance through most of this episode? Like, did you not find, like, were you expecting him to go a lot faster?
Not really. Lauren Ball's really good lower body, but he's shown a big penchant of weakness when it comes to upper body obstacles throughout the history. And Team Ninja Warrior, we've seen this whole season. It's a lot more upper body intensive than we thought, and a lot of things that make him like that he do well at. He's going to be tripped up on things like the Ring of Fire and stuff like that more. So I wasn't too surprised. I feel like they raised him up a little too much with he goes so fast. I'm like, he goes fast when it comes to A&W. Team Ninja Warrior, you think would be much more lower body intensive, but it really isn't, at least this season. So I was more high up on Paul Kasemir. He's always been really good, and he's a sneaky one. Paul Kasemir, I definitely know him, but I feel like he's very much understated just how consistent he is going, and it's very much the same that I always talk about, where slow and steady can win the race sometimes, and he's more of that type of person.
Yeah, I was totally surprised. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I don't know. I always thought Lauren is fast. I mean, there's always upper body obstacles. Like Ring of Fire isn't that different from what we normally see on the courses. And he posts fastest time all the time. Like, he's consistently right at the top, if not the top finisher. So I was really surprised because he seemed to be dragging his feet. And I don't know if it's that he was taking his time so much as this competition forces everyone to go at the pace he would normally go. And it doesn't seem as drastic, right? Most people kind of pick and choose their way through the course and take their time, whereas he normally goes at this pace. So it doesn't seem as jarring.
Yeah, I just think this particular course and the matchups that he had as a team captain, it was asking a lot of him.
I don't know. He didn't take the captain's seat, right? He opted not to run against Drew, which
probably smart.
I honestly, I thought he had made that choice because I figured he counted on beating James, and then Drew would probably end up winning, and he would face him in the tiebreaker. Yeah. When Drew was winded, right? I thought he was
counting on
there.
Being winded. I really think that was the case, that they were looking for at least one win, and then they'd be able to take on, a more winded Drew, because the 1-2 punch of Drew and James McGrath, I mean, that's a really tough thing, and you really have to think hard. You have to use a lot of strategy when dealing with that dynamic. With that said, I have to say the one person that we aren't talking about that really surprised me was Mei Ling Huang. I mean, she was very good this episode. And we were, I don't know, like, this whole team is very much understated because I didn't know she competed 2 seasons. And I really feel bad about that. She was very impressive. She's not a newcomer like we were saying last episode. And she really showed off, like, her prowess. I mean, good on that woman.
Yeah, I knew we had talked about her before. I just couldn't remember in what context. I didn't know if it was with the National Ninja League or where it had been. But I remember trying to pronounce her name before it kind of stood out. So yeah, I know we had definitely talked about her, but I didn't know she was going to be that good. Erica Cook is fantastic, and Mei Ling just beasted through it. Like, she was amazing. She was great. Like, no complaints whatsoever through this whole episode, but in this particular matchup, she did really well.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I wish I recorded, like, my reaction videos, because I think people would find it hilarious, because my face hurt after watching Drew versus Paul, because I was smiling like ear to ear watching him blitz through that course. Like, I was just grinning like a goof the whole time. I thought it was amazing. Like, everything we expect from Drew. Like, I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, he was fantastic that whole run. Very dynamic, very poised, like kind of like Joe Moravsky. He makes it look easy, and he doesn't use a whole lot of energy when doing these obstacles. One thing that definitely stood out to me also with this first particular matchup was, we have to talk about the Beast hurting himself. Mm-hmm. And that worried me, because when I saw him pull back, with one arm, I mean, I've been in similar situations, and the force is really hard to explain, but there's a whole lot of weight being just, even if he's just swinging, right? And it's more like it just stops. That's a whole lot of force you're putting on your pec. And this is a more muscular guy, and he really like swings hard downwards. And that force, I mean, I was shocked that he didn't rip a pec or anything else in his shoulder or anything. I was really worried for the guy. Yeah, I think he might have some minor ligament damage from that. I really hope it doesn't rear its head in later episodes, because he might be able to tough it out with this particular day because of adrenaline and everything else. But that could be an injury that, exacerbates over the next few days.
Yeah, the stairs in my house are actually really steep, and when I slipped on them back a few months ago, I caught myself with my arm almost in exactly the same position, and I totally felt the pain when he did that. I know exactly what that felt like.
Yeah, I've done it before too, and it's a scary injury, because that's definitely not a joint you want to mess up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially at the beginning of this competition is not the best time to do it.
Yeah, so I hope he's okay. I mean, luckily it didn't look as serious compared to the other injuries that we had this season, but it could play a role later on.
All right, so all that being said, the real life beasts move on, and that led to Stratis faction versus Le Breakfast Club. And I hadn't really realized how much I wanted this matchup to happen until I saw it. I'm like, oh god, this is gonna be great.
Dude, same. I was so excited when I actually saw them like up to next to each other. I'm like, oh my god, like this is a matchup. Like there are names on every team. There's not like the like on both teams. There's nobody that you don't know about. And I was grinning from ear to ear. I was like so excited for every matchup they had.
Yeah, it's like rookies versus vets, and the vets are the passionate, like you always describe them as, like the hardcore fan base, right? Like the old school fans. It's really cool. And I always root for Ryan and Mike specifically. I mean, I like Grace a lot, but Ryan and Mike are just a couple of characters, so they're always fun to watch.
They're infectious, and they are one of the most hardcore pairs of ninjas there is. I mean, not only, like, obviously there are people that are super dedicated to the sport, but when you're talking about people that interact with people online and they follow, like, they are like these super nerds like us, right? But they also compete and everything else. So these guys are just on next level, super fan service guys. They always, acknowledge Sasuke with the back slap and everything. I mean, it's really cool to see them, and their passion is just so infectious. I was hoping they do well, but at the same time, they had such a monolith task taking on Le Breakfast Club, and that's where, when it hit me, I was getting really nervous for my pick in the Real Life Beast. I am like, oh boy.
I didn't think
this Le Breakfast Club looks insane.
Well, yeah, this matchup showed what they could do. Oh my god. Well, the Mike versus Noel was like a fantastic match. It was probably the run of the night. Like,
why don't you go over what the teams are, because people need to understand just how stacked these teams are, both of them.
Well, we have Mike Bernardo, who's shown how strong he is over time, right? And especially famously now with the Salmon Ladder Challenge, not this year but last. And Noel Reyes, the rapping ninja, has always been strong, but you could really see it when they were standing there, the two firefighters squaring off. Oh my god, those guys were ripped. Yeah,
and Noel Reyes, like, this guy is so talented. He's one of the more understated ninjas. He's better known as the rapping ninja.
Yeah, Noel's actually sings the opening theme tune for the National Ninja League videos we listen to every single week when it's going. So, yeah, we've heard him just a few times now.
Yeah, and really understand just how good this guy is in terms of speed, right? And I was so excited for this matchup, I have to say. The two firefighters, as you alluded to, big, stocky, buff guys. Fast, though. They're very agile. I was really excited. Oh, my God. I just burped. Can't even talk. Where'd that come from? Okay.
Okay, so let's.
I can't. Yeah, you go ahead. I don't even know what to say anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that in. So we've got Mike versus Noel, which is a fantastic race. Like they got hung up. Mike was ahead, but he got hung up on the spin cycle. They went up the wall at the same time, probably more synchronized than anyone we've seen. And Noel barely beats him out. It was a great race overall. Like there's no complaints. That was like perfect.
Yeah, it came from behind too, because Noel was behind for just a little bit throughout almost the entire race, but he caught up at that warped wall at the last minute and hurled himself over. It was really fun. And what they say, 14 hundredths of a second? I mean, that is insane, dude.
Yeah, it was really, really close. And then we got to see Grace Sims versus Jesse Labreck, which was another good race.
One thing, finally, I figured out, or we got the answer of why she's on this team and not with her husband, Brett Sims. She was a former roommate of Ryan Stratis, so that makes at least a little bit more sense. I still think she should kind of be with the other guy with the last name Sims. Kind of makes sense. Can be the couple, but it works.
Yeah, there's got to be a pun in there. They love those so much. The Sims. It has to be a thing somewhere, little green triangles over their heads or something.
Oh no! You know what? Don't have them on the team because I don't need to see that. Oh, that'd be so painful.
They would have to do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, that makes a lot of sense, and I don't need to see it.
But yeah, Grace got hung up on the Ring of Fire, and that was it. Like as soon as she got hung up, Jesse just blasted the whole course.
No chance. Yeah, poor Grace. You have to be so perfect to go against Flex Labreck, and I mean, once she had that stopgap, it was dead in the water. I mean, Flex Labreck is so talented. Once again, just showing why she's at the top of the sport in terms of the women, and I'm in awe. Kind of like with Drew Drechsel. I mean, I'm in awe of watching Flex Labreck just making everything look so effortless and easy. Yeah, and she's new to the sport. That's the other thing. I mean, she is very new to this sport compared to a lot of the other veterans, and wow, she is making a name for herself so quickly. So
she posted the fastest time for any woman that year, and so it came down to Ryan Stratis versus John Alexis Jr., and I don't know, John Alexis, I never really quite appreciate how fast he can be. I guess I look at the size of him and I think, yeah, he's at the reach and everything else, but I never really give him the full due of what that guy can accomplish on the course. He is freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, I think when you see a guy like that, you think basketball player, where he's good, but he's probably a lot heavier than you imagine, and he's not going to be able to hold up his body weight. But this guy is a track athlete, and I'm so glad that they highlighted that because it explains a whole lot more of why he's so good and dominant in the sport. This guy is fast. He's actually very agile and able to hold up his body weight quite well. I mean, this guy is so good. And this is the competition for him, which is interesting when we'll talk about something later, but he's probably better suited for Team Ninja Warrior than even American Ninja Warrior. This guy is so fast.
He's ridiculous. It makes me wonder, I think we haven't seen the Towers of Power yet. They'll be next week, so I wonder how they're going to do, because they're crazy tall too, so we'll see how they stack up.
Yeah, what I know the Towers of Power are 6'6" and 6'7", right? How tall is John Alexis Jr.?
I'm not sure. I thought he was 6'7", so I mean they're pretty on par, I think.
Oh damn, man! I don't know why this guy just looks so much taller.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He is definitely a big dude, and I really...
Dude, you see him next to Ryan Stratis, because I'm looking at it right now. It's so ridiculous. He just towers over Ryan Stratis, and Ryan Stratis is not a short guy, so it's just ridiculous.
We do get to see them match up later in the episode with the other team, but the way that Lauren's team runs, we didn't get to see him standing next to Lauren Ball, which I was really looking forward to.
Oh, could you imagine? Oh, that would have been amazing.
But yeah, as we're saying, Ryan did great. There was no complaints. But oh my God, John Alexis Jr. did it in 32 seconds. Darn near skipping over whole sections of the course. It's just ridiculous.
So good. So amazingly good.
So unfortunately for Stratisfaction, that meant they went from fighting fighting. They went from competing against that ridiculous team to facing the real life beast. Like, talking about getting the short straw.
Yeah, that's tough. And I just want to highlight the fact that Le Breakfast Club 0 and like they've won all of their matchups so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than the first run, very dominant. They made it look easy, so very interesting.
Yeah, like you said, I was looking at that, them being a spoiler for sure in the finale. Like, oh, they've got this. Like, there's no beating this team.
Yeah, I was terrified. Absolutely terrified.
But we get to see Stratis faction versus real life beasts, another like superstar matchup.
Yeah, fun. Absolutely fun. Just all these matchups. So fun.
So first matchup, we've got Mike Bernardo versus James McGrath. And I can't really hold that fall against. They seem to kind of give Mike a hard time about that. But he had to blitz. He had to go as fast as he possibly could because James McGrath is ridiculously fast. And it was just a simple mistake. Like, I really don't know that you can hold that against him. That's just from rushing as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah, it's just a lapse of judgment. And as you alluded to, you just have to throw yourself at it in certain instances. Maybe he could have been a little bit less reckless in some aspect, but I understand why he threw himself into it. But yeah, he can be a little bit less reckless.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with Team Ninja, you kind of have to lay it all on the line. I don't think he was reckless. It was no different than we see with Drew a little bit later, right? It just missed a hand placement, right? It's so easy to do when you're going that fast.
To a degree. I mean, this one was more of he let go of the rope and Lashade too early.
Then we had Grace versus Erica. This was like a back and forth, great race. They're both struggling in the spin cycle because they're both only 5 feet tall, so it made it that much more entertaining than watching, like, John Alexis Jr. just practically skip the whole darn thing. They have to like really use technique and really control their bodies to try to get through that obstacle. I like it. I like that it wasn't, because this spin cycle didn't really play a whole big role in this episode at all. It was just they skipped over it.
It almost did this one.
This was the one time when it really looked like they were competing against each other on that obstacle.
Well, not just that. I mean, with the final dismount with Erica Cook, she flung herself to the side a little too far, and she almost fell off the course. But she was able to like kick off the pole or the pillar and stay on the course. Now, I didn't hear any feedback, but it's a very interesting thing. Some people can maybe argue that you're not supposed to touch the side of the course, but I didn't really see a problem with it or much blowback online, really. But yeah, I'm happy that we are able to see her complete the course. And once again, the touching the water bears, it actually is a very strong component where your shoes can get super slippery, and that happened for Grace Sims.
Yeah. I don't think there's any problem with touching the support structures when it's there to prevent them from falling off the course. I don't think she really had much choice there, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, but no, I haven't seen any fallback from that either. I think that's a pretty reasonable
I did too.
Use of it to save yourself.
Yeah, just when I saw that, I was like, oh, I wonder if somebody's going to be complaining about that.
I thought the same thing, yeah. Nothing yet. So yeah, it was a good race. And then we had Ryan Stratis versus Drew to avoid the sweep. And I thought, Ryan, oh my God, like, if the pressure's on you, all you have to do to avoid a sweep is beat Drew Drechsel. No problem, right? Like, you got this.
Hey, but Ryan Stratis is somebody that can do it. Ryan Stratis is very, very talented and very fast. And he's been competing every season. He's one of the OGs, kind of like David Campbell. So this guy can do it. Now, the one thing that, the first thing we have to talk about is this unique technique that Drew Drechsel had where he basically sat on the swing for the swing to the cargo net, and he basically just swung on his butt to the net, and I found that really entertaining and fun. Definitely unique. That's all I can say to that.
You know what's hilarious is I didn't even notice that. I was so wrapped up.
He did it twice, dude.
I saw him slowing down on the cargo net, but I wasn't really looking at him. I was looking at the person passing him each time, so I was busy watching the person in the lead and wondering what Drew was doing that was causing him to fall behind, but not actually taking the time to look.
You gotta go back and watch it. He like grabs both like chains of the whatever it is, and like jumps up, sits his butt on the little on the post or whatever that makes you swing, and he basically swings it like like a regular swing set to the cargo net. It's pretty awesome.
What? Why would he do that?
It worked for him. He flung himself forward. It's awesome to watch. You should
But
see it.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it. But I'm confused, right? Because he lost time every single time. When it got to that, he was ahead. I'm almost sure he was. Each time that they got there, he was ahead or at least on par and ended up behind coming off that cargo net.
I think it's because when he would do it, he'd land on the cargo net very much lower, where other people kind of fling themselves into the chain and then grab high up on the cargo net. With him throwing his body downwards, he's able to catch himself much lower on the cargo net and make up a lot of that distance and time, where he kind of ties them when they make it off of the cargo net. So I guess it has its advantages and disadvantages, but it's worked for him so far. I just found it very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I'm definitely going back to watch that now. But yeah, and it came, he ended up with this big lead, and I gasped out loud. I jumped. I literally jumped in my seat. Like, I don't know why I got so wrapped up in it, like as if I had fallen. But, oh my God, when he fell, that was like the shock of the entire episode.
Oh, alarms were going off in my head. I was freaking out. I'm like, the curse! The curse is happening!
Yeah, this is the point where I went like, damn you, Bijan. It is all your fault. What did you do?
Oh, I was getting nervous. With that said, it was a small lapse of judgment, and I'm very glad that this was a tiebreaker situation where he had another shot. Because if for some reason maybe it was 1-1 and this is the way they go out, that would have been extremely underwhelming.
Yeah, it's
and it could have happened easily, guys.
It really could have. It is really weird how this whole thing works out. And we still see complaints about the point system, but I really don't want runs that don't mean anything, and I don't see very many solutions for this. So each one has to matter. So that means that at any point, people can kind of make a comeback. And that meant that now we were down to, even though this was the one win for Stratis faction, it's now a tiebreaker. It comes down to one race between Drew Drechsel and Mike Bernardo. And Mike was actually keeping up really well. I was really impressed how he was keeping pace. But he ended up going head over heels in the floating tiles, just racing to keep up. I thought they did a really admirable job, but they just had a really tough draw.
Yeah, not much I can really say about it. It was just missed placement and timing. Mike Bernardo's part. It was really unfortunate because this episode, Mike Bernardo didn't necessarily come off too well, but he's so good that I really hope it doesn't lower his placement in people's eyes. Because, and I'm not too worried because I think next season of A&W, he's really going to show off what he's capable of. But yeah, tough night for Mike Bernardo.
I really didn't think so. I mean, maybe it's just me because I'm really high up on him, so I guess I'm looking past a lot of it. But I thought he did such a great job versus Noel, and that the other two falls were just him trying to keep up with freaking James McGrath and Drew Drechsel. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So that meant that the real life beast moved on to the final, the relay. And we moved on to Le Breakfast Club versus the Ballers in their second round.
So at this point, I was just processing in my head, like, what the matchups were going to be with the Le Breakfast Club versus Real Life Beast in the final relay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Le Breakfast Club is probably going to come out very strong. They're going to catch a huge lead, especially with Erica Cook versus Flex Labreck, because I love Erica Cook, but she's not Flex Labreck.
Right.
And they're going to get a lead, but like, I don't see Noel against Drew Drechsel going at the same pace. Noel's very upper body intensive, but maybe there's a shot of him, getting ahead with Drew Drechsel. Maybe there's a shot of Drew Drechsel making up that deficit. And I was just processing all the different avenues in my head of what's going to go on. And then I see the end of this whole matchup. So, yeah, let's go through it.
Yeah, at this point I was thinking, okay, so Le Breakfast Club wins the episode. So, like, I really was looking that far ahead that I actually couldn't see how they could be beaten in the finale, like, as you said, because, like, Jesse is so strong, and I was picturing, John Alexis Jr. on that second half of the course. We saw him just basically skip the spin cycle, and he goes up the warped wall like nobody's business, winning the warped wall challenge at the All-Star competition. I was like, I don't think they can be beaten. Like how do you possibly beat that team? And then we found out, because in this matchup, the Ballers managed to get it done in a way that is probably going to irritate a lot of fans. Noel did great, and in the first run, blew past Lauren Ball 35 seconds to beat him out. Not much to say about that race, I don't think.
Wasn't even close.
Yeah. Jesse versus Mei Ling was a fantastic race, out of nowhere. Mei Ling, where did she come from? Because she was amazing this episode. Because as soon as Jesse got hung up on the Ring of Fire, she just kept going, blitzing through the whole course. Took a second to wipe her feet, and that was enough. But it wasn't even. I guess she should have taken another second, because she still slipped on the wall.
Well, she got her feet wet, and it was tough for her, for any of those competitors with wet feet to go up that. But Mei Ling, I mean, she was so good, and she gave Labreck a big scare. You could tell Labreck was real nervous when she actually got up the warped wall. She was at oh yeah. She's like, oh my god.
Yeah, well, that was close, and that was the new fastest female time that she posted, 46 seconds.
Yeah, with some trouble at the beginning. I mean,
yeah,
Labreck is good.
And then that came down to John Alexis Jr. versus Paul Kasemir, and I like Paul Kasemir a lot. I don't know why they kind of pegged him, and you kind of did too, as not as... I guess he isn't quite up there with the Joe Moravskis and other ones as being famous, but I've been a fan of his for a few years now. I didn't need to be here in the original seasons. I like watching Paul every year.
Yeah, I love him. He's very talented, but he basically was the Nicholas Coolidge of the mid-seasons, where he was so good, he'd make it so far, but he'd get maybe 15 seconds of screen time. they would be like, oh yeah, this guy's here, but bye-bye. They just don't feature him, but he's a big, I'm a big fan of his, and yeah, very underestimated, that Paul Kasemir.
So yeah, I completely unexpected. John ends up falling on the Ring of Fire in the way we've seen multiple times. Although this was the first time this episode where someone's fingers got peeled off, hitting that second notch on the Ring of Fire. Which,
well, if there was anybody that was going to happen to, it was going to be this guy.
Yeah, if anybody has an excuse.
Yeah, there's a lot going against this poor fella, and one is, he may look skinny, but with his height, he's holding on a lot of weight. And with his limbs being that long, when his body's flinging downwards or off to the side with that kind of force, that's a whole lot of weight you're holding on to. And I'm very glad he did let go, because if he were to try to hold on like Beast McGrath did, you could basically say bye-bye to his shoulder and pec. Those both would have been ripped completely off. So, yeah, that I got actually pretty nervous when I just saw the one arm. I'm like, oh my god! But he let go, and I was kind of relieved.
So, yeah, that meant that we had a tiebreaker, and here it comes down to one matchup. It's like... So going into this, I love Paul Kasemir, but I was like, John so far has shown that he's really fast. So as long as he doesn't have any mistakes, like the first one, and is able to go at a conservative pace, because Paul Kasemir is going to not super slow, but more conservative with his approach to obstacles. We can have a really good matchup. I was pretty shocked with this matchup, man. Yeah, I don't even know if I can run through this. It's painful. John messed up, and even though Paul ended up getting hung up on the spin cycle, he couldn't make up the time. John struggled on the course, and Paul didn't really, other than that one little slip up, and he beat him. He straight up beat him. I don't even know what to say. How did this happen?
Well, I mean, no discredit to the Ballers, but, Paul Kasemir is really, really good. He's very talented, and he's very consistent. Paul Kasemir, his approach to everything is much more geared towards A&W, which is why I kind of wrote off the team for Team Ninja Warrior, because I wasn't expecting Lauren Ball and Paul Kasemir to make that difference to get to the relay, but they did. And this is why I love Team Ninja Warrior, because a lot of teams can really shock you. The teams that you kind of just write off and really surprise you. We've been seeing that for the past 2 seasons, and I was stunned that we saw them in the relay. But up till those last two matches with John Alexis Jr., the Labreck Club was undefeated. So they win all their matchups, and then they lose 2, and they're out of this competition. And I don't know how I feel about that. I understand both sides of the argument, but it just really irks of, something's little questionable with that. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know what is it like. What do we do? Do we have an elimination format where you I really don't know the solution, and it drives me crazy. And I know we've mentioned this 1,000 times, but it's frustrating every time when a team goes 5-2 and is booted out.
Yeah, and it's when you look at the matchups of the other team. I mean, the Ballers, I don't know what their record was, but it might be the reverse, because I think they only won 3 matchups this entire episode, right?
They had 1 from the first matchup, and
those 2. Yeah, so they only had 3 wins this entire matchup, and you look at the other team. I don't know. It's just a little. It kind of stings a little bit.
Okay, so to be fair, now we got to back this up, or not back it up, move forward, because going into the finale, that didn't exactly go as I thought it was going to be going either.
Nope. Oh boy. Erica Cook is probably so happy. Like it's kind of like the same of my last team, where we had quite a scare at the beginning of this relay.
So to recap for those that either didn't see it or might not remember, that meant the real life beasts were going to face the Ballers. They lined up with Erica versus Mei Ling to start it off, James versus Lauren Ball in the middle, and Drew versus Paul Kasemir to wrap it up.
All makes sense.
The lineups made sense. There was not really much question. It seemed like real life beasts honestly kind of had it in the bag, but it didn't end up that way. So running through it here, Mei Ling just dominates Erica Cook in the beginning of it. She did amazing. Erica did okay. She didn't fall or anything, but Mei Ling was just straight through really fast.
Yeah. Erica got very close to falling, though. There was a moment with the ring fire where she was one-handed, and I almost screamed. I'm like, please don't you do this to me.
Not again.
Please,
not
Erica.
Again. But they did have a really sizable lead at the tag. And then Lauren turns on the afterburners, and he was actually going really fast this time. So they had a big lead at the tag at the top of the warp ball.
A huge lead.
Tagging in Paul Kasemir. And it's like, oh my God, Paul's not going to give up this lead. I don't care how good Drew is. Drew is way behind at this point.
Yeah, Paul is very upper body, and he's good. His upper body game is very understated. So I was so scared.
And then the unthinkable happens. Paul falls on the salmon ladder. How we saw this last year too. I hate this win. Anyone falling on the back end of this course is the lamest way to win this whole episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can really do about it. I mean, I understand why it's there. It's just the obstacles, but it sucks to see. And yeah, I got a feel for Paul, because with the salmon ladder, it's a very common small mistake where it's just a super small lapse of judgment where you don't get that lache high enough. And I understand it, especially in this competition, because there's so many things going on all at once. You're trying to go as fast as possible up those rungs. So I can't knock him for it. It's anybody. It could happen to anybody. I'm just so happy that I was able to get a team that I chose, 2 teams actually, to the finals. And Real Life Beast, I mean, there was a scare there too. Drew Drechsel, he made a small little mistake on that salmon layer where he had to readjust. So it just accentuates. There's many factors that can happen on obstacles like the salmon ladder that some people overlook. It's one of the hallmarks for a reason. It's definitely an obstacle that needs to be respected. Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's kind of anticlimactic, but I understand why it happened.
Yeah, I don't know of any other sports like that. That's the thing, though. It kind of, to me, it ruins it in a fairly big way, and I don't know. Again, I don't know the fix, and it kind of ties back to A&W, right, where you can't touch the water, and it's one little slip up can be the end of your night. So I mean, I get it. It does tie back into the way the sport typically runs, but yeah, it'd be like, I don't know. It'd be like in baseball, if the catcher catches your pop fly, the game's over. The other team wins. It's just, how can you have one event that causes everything else to mean nothing? It just seems weird.
Yeah, don't know what to say about it, man.
Yeah. Looking ahead to next week, then, we have 4 teams left. This is our last preliminary round. We have the Invincibles. That's Abel Gonzalez's team. Team Ronin, that's Flip Rodriguez and JJ Woods' team. The Towers of Power, Dan Polizzi and Brandon Mears, and the Ninja Britons, Jeff Britton and Jessica Britton, and all with Mike Chick. Oh my God, this is going to be a great episode. Lots of our favorites, not to mention my last pick. So you've got 2 out of your 3 actually made it to the finals. You actually had a good record. So if the Ninja Britons pull through for me, I'll have 2 out of my 3. And the Curse of the Armchair Ninja podcast is no longer a thing.
Yeah, we'll see, because I give Invincibles not much of a chance, so I think they're going to win, just because I don't expect anything from them in terms of these matchups. But Ninja Britons, I'm so excited to see them, all 3 members of their team, super psyched. Just I can't say enough about Jessica Britton and how talented she is, and I really love seeing her compete. Jeff Britton, you guys already know my admiration of that guy, just so good. Really fantastic to see him still compete, at least in Team Ninja Warrior. Mike Schick, really great, and I'm really looking forward to them against Team Ronin, because that is definitely a team that can play big spoilers. That is a very, very fast, not only lower body, but upper body dominant team. They, unlike Lauren Ball, where I didn't expect much from the upper body, I really expect a whole lot from both Flip Rodriguez and JJ Woods. That is a 1-2 combination that I think can really do some damage. So I think they could be very big challenge for all the competitors. And, Tiana Weberly, I just love that girl. Towers of Power, they're the question marks for me. They can play big spoilers. I don't know how well they do in the final relay, because that last portion of the relay is going to be really tough for anybody that height, and one of them is going to have to take it. So we'll see about that, but they can play spoiler to one of the top teams getting to that relay. Very interesting to see this.
Yeah, not a weak team in the bunch. We'll see how it all works out in the end. Who's your? Well, I've already picked mine. Ninja Britons. Would that be where your money's at, or do you think Team Ronin's got it?
That's tough, man. I'm gonna give it to Team Ronin. I'm thinking Team Ronin, actually. I don't feel very good in that assessment, because now that I think about it, I don't see them beating them in the final relay. But it's one of those question marks I always have of, if the Ninja Britons can get to that relay, I think they have a fantastic shot in going all the way. But they're going to have a big challenge against them with the Team Ronin. That's going to be the big question mark, is how Ninja Britons can do against Team Ronin.
Yeah, if they get to that relay, I can't wait to watch Jeff tear through those globe graspers. I think it'll be hilarious to watch.
It's going to be just ridiculous. He might as well just fall asleep going through them like nothing. It's so talented.
Yeah. So that is it for this episode, and there will be a second one coming soon for the Celebrity Ninja Warrior. If you'd like to reach out to me, I am rich@ninjapodcast.com or @ninjapodcast on both Twitter and Instagram. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Hit me up at Bijan151 on Twitter and Instagram. That is BIJAN 151.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
Peace and love, y'all.